So Bruno Lage's first game for Wolves ends in defeat against League One Crewe Alexandra in what was kind of an irrelevant game. Really, I don't think anyone with a brain actually really cared about the result. For me, it was just more about learning what the long term plan is. Because I don't think anyone's really known. When the team lineup came out, I think everyone kind of thought it would be a back five of Rain Nuri's the wing back and Marcel on the left of a back three, especially considering Taylor Perry and Morgan Gibbs White are a lot more attacking midfielders, right? But it wasn't like that at all. It was pretty standard, really, pretty standard 4-4-2 with quite high and wide fullbacks and very inside wingers. And I don't think there was that much to learn. The thing that I thought was kind of interesting is how as the back two, look, we haven't really seen a back two often, but at Wolves anyway recently. But Bolly was very much the sitter and Kilman was kind of like the aggressor. It was kind of might be a bit of a weird comparison, but he had a very Harry Maguire performance. He was always, even though he's quite gangly and not very quick, he was always coming out. He was always the aggressor, and Bolly was kind of the sitter, which to me is really interesting because if Connor Cody comes back, which and kind of is important to Bruno Lage as he was to Nuno, I can't really see where Connor Cody fits in that because I can't see Connor Cody being that sort of defender personally. I don't think he's good enough on the as a dribbler to do that. So then that kind of leaves him as the sitter where Bolly is, but I don't think he's as good as Willy Bolly. So it'd be interesting to see how Cody fits in with that. But I thought it was really interesting to see how high Kilman was. And look, maybe that's due to Marcel as well being so deep. Maybe if Aiden Nuri was left back, Kilman would stay back a bit more. But I thought that was interesting. I thought Taylor Perry being the deepest centre midfielder was pretty interesting. And obviously, a lot of people have been kind of thinking that Morgan Gibbs White might have kind of played as a second striker, kind of in the Joao Felix kind of mould. But he wasn't, Bruno Lage clearly sees him as, one of the central midfielders in a 4-4-2. I thought he was really good. He gave the ball away a few times, but I feel like everyone did that bar Raul Jimenez. I feel like every other player gave the ball away. And, I still think that midfield needs a ball winner, which you'd assume Ruben Neves would be, right? But I can't really see that sort of midfield working in the Premier League, especially with, Eight Nuri on the left side. But I think to me, this just kind of showed what Wolves need, Obviously, Daniel Pedence will come back, Pedro Neto will come back, Adama Traore will come back. That's all good. But that central midfield needs depth, man. I was surprised though not Saudi didn't actually start. When you look at the second half side, when you look at this side, all of them are pretty much backup players. I don't think that's really a surprise, but I was surprised though Otsai didn't start. I mean, he had a pretty bad game in the second half, but that kind of shows an early pecking order for me that Taylor Perry's kind of the backup guy, which I think is interesting. He's clearly, better on the ball than Owen Otasawi. That's one issue with Owen Otasawi. He's very gangly. He's kind of, he'd do very well in like a more chaotic side. But overall from the game, I don't feel like there was really much to learn. I thought it was interesting that Kilman was kind of the aggressive centre back and Bolly was a sitter. It was interesting to see Nuri play out wide. He's a really good dribbler. That doesn't surprise me that he could do that role. I assume that's just because Pedence and Neto aren't there, or Adama. When they're all back, I assume we'll never see him play there again. But overall, I thought it was a pretty fine performance for a preseason game. If you look at Nuno's first preseason, we lost 2 of those 6 games. I remember that Peterborough game that we won was atrocious. I remember watching that game. Obviously, the Leicester game was pretty good, but that was not a good preseason. I think Nuno's Tottenham drew earlier with Leyton Orient. So, it doesn't matter. This 1-0, it doesn't mean anything. But I thought it was more of a learning thing for me. I don't really care about anyone's individual performance. Assuming it improves game on game, no one will really care. But I think it shows what we need. Probably 2 central midfielders, probably another striker. Because also one interesting thing is I think everyone kind of, well, at least I assumed anyway, that it would be one of Raul or Fabio and then kind of a second striker. But it kind of seems like he wants a proper 2 up front, which I assume is probably because that's probably him learning as a coach, right? Let's just get rid of Fabio and put in Joao Felix for a second. We all kind of assumed he'd have kind of a second striker, maybe for Dents or Morgan Gibbs White there. But I assume he's not really going to do that at Wolves. Or even Trincao. I thought Trincao might play there. But that's clearly not the case. And that's probably because, when Joao Felix left Benfica, their performances dropped off. And he's probably looking at it and going, I can't be reliant on one creative hub in the middle. At least I assume that's why anyway. But yeah, Fabio Silva looked to bulk up as well, which was nice to see. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a pretty standard preseason game. No one really cares. Saw some people on Twitter reacting, especially when the team news came out. But I thought it was a pretty fine performance, and this squad will only improve. The fitness will improve, and yeah, I'm sure this won't be. This will be forgotten very quickly. If you enjoyed the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, peace.